Welcome to another edition of CyberSecurity Divas Leadership Moments with Lindra L. Downs. Today's edition is brought to you by Fortify Experts, a cybersecurity search and consulting firm that helps companies build high-performing security and risk teams. Now here's Lynn.
Hello, my name is Gina Downs. I'm with CyberSecurity Divas, and I have Gina Osborn online to interview today. She is an FBI assistant special agent in charge, retired executive leader coach, and a keynote speaker. Hi, Gina. How you doing today?
Hi, great, Lynn. How are you?
I am doing great. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I spent 28 years in law enforcement. I started back in 1987 when I joined the Army as a counterintelligence agent during the end of the Cold War. I did that for 6 years, and I lived in Europe. It was a great experience. And then I entered on duty with the FBI in 1996, and I worked there for 22 years, and I retired in 2018.
Okay, so how did you get involved in cybersecurity?
In order for us to promote in the FBI, we have to do 18 months at the mothership or at the headquarters. And I was on the inspection staff, and I was going out to do my first inspection, and they were looking for a team leader to inspect a cyber program. So I wasn't really familiar with cyber. It was a brand new program, or a relatively new program for the FBI. And then I did one big cyber inspection in Chicago. And then I sort of became the expert in program management for the cyber program. So I went out and did many, many more inspections. And then about a year later in Los Angeles, they posted an assistant special agent in charge position, which is the very first cyber leader in all of the field offices for the FBI. This was back in 2007. And for 11 years before I retired, I was in charge of the largest cyber and computer forensics programs in the FBI.
Oh my God, that sounds like that was very involved. Different type of stuff, different type of in charge position?
Sure. So I had, during that 11 years, I had anywhere between 7 and 10 squads of individuals who I computer forensics. We had the Orange County Regional Computer Forensics Lab, which was a $7 million state-of-the-art forensics lab that I provided leadership on and developed with my team. And I also had several squads that worked computer intrusion investigations, whether national security or criminal computer intrusions. And one of the major cases that we investigated was the Sony hack, the hack on Sony Pictures Entertainment by North Korea.
Okay, wow. You were up there. So since you've been in FBI, did you have any mentors or anything to help you launch your career further?
Sure. I had great mentors, mostly male mentors, as in the FBI, when I got in, only about 14% of the agents were women. And when I left, about 20% of the agents were women. So we really didn't go up that much over the 22 years that I was with the FBI. But I did. I had great mentors, people who believed in me and me under their wings, and got me to where I wound up getting at the end of my career.
All right. Are you able to speak to whom maybe one or two of those mentors were?
Sure. One of them was Randy Parsons, and he was my squad supervisor when I worked Asian organized crime back in the 90s. And he wound up getting promoted and went onto the terrorism side after 9/11. And that's what I did. I followed him, and I was the first counterterrorism program coordinator in the Los Angeles division. And then I went on to be in charge of a squad that investigated terrorist activity against U.S. persons and U.S. interests in Southeast Asia. So he was a tremendous role model for me. And another role model was Ethel McGuire. She was my assistant special agent in charge, and she definitely took me under her wing before I went to the inspection division for the FBI to teach me everything I needed to know to be successful there.
Okay. So where you are and what you've done, what was your greatest challenge in your career?
Gosh, that's a good question. My greatest challenge, I think just really, going through a lot of the crimes, the crime scenes, and dealing with a whole other side of society that I never knew about. I think that was very challenging, but you kind of learn that as you go on. And I think it was much less challenging at the end than it was in the beginning. So I would say just getting used to the culture and the things that I was exposed to, the violent crimes and things like that I was exposed to. I think that was a pretty good challenge in the beginning.
Being in there, hands-on experience, you say you're a project lead. Did you have any hands-on experience dealing with this or just leading the project?
Oh, no, I was a special agent. So I came in as a special agent and then I progressed through the ranks during my career. But yes, I was an agent. My first job was working Asian organized crime in the Little Saigon district of Orange County. So I worked everything from murder for hires to drug cases, organized crime, involuntary servitude, you name it. We pretty much worked it down in Little Saigon.
Okay, like CSI?
Kind of, or yeah, I guess so.
No, I think it's the FBI, I think CSI, I don't know. The cybersecurity piece of it. So when you say cyber, were you like dealing with any like the hacking or the penetrate, that kind of stuff? What part of it was part of the cybersecurity part of it?
Yeah, so I was in charge of investigations relating to criminal and national security computer intrusion. So major hacking cases, international hacking cases. In fact, we worked the first joint cyber case with the Egyptian National Police, where we wound up taking down 100 people all on the same day, both in Egypt and in the United States. So that was really exciting. It was called Operation Fish Fry. And under me, for about 5 years, we had the crimes against children, so child pornography cases. I had a squad under me that looked at that, and then again the computer forensics as well. So we handled all of those cyber investigations.
Wow, that's exciting! Oh my God! So, what would you tell a young lady today if they wanted to kind of pursue the type of cyber career you have?
I would say get into STEM as early as you possibly can. I am on the board of directors for the Girl Scouts of Orange County, and they say that girls either go towards STEM by the 8th grade or they go away from STEM by the 8th grade. So I would say start really getting excited about it. I know there are so many different groups for girls who code and different things like that. So I would say start early and really, really get out there and be curious and learn as much as you possibly can about the information technology, hacking, and all of the things that you can. Don't do it, but just, learn as much as you can about it. And also find a good mentor, find somebody who will talk to you about, what it is that you want to go into. And I'm a big believer in mentoring people. I mentor a lot of women who are interested in getting into the FBI. And, it's really having that kind of inside scoop to really understand what it is that you're getting into.
Okay. So, I think, what are some of the early career mistakes that you or somebody have made in cybersecurity, getting into cybersecurity?
When I first got into it, I did not have a huge technical background. In fact, I had very little technical background at all. And I went in as a leader, as a lead from the front type of leader, and not having the same technical skills or prowess that the people I was leading had. I would sometimes look behind me and I wouldn't have anybody following me. So I had to definitely adjust my leadership style to work with cyber people, cyber agents and analysts and computer scientists and forensics folks. And so that's one thing that I learned, to change my leadership style and become a servant leader, get them everything they needed to do their jobs, and really tap into their creativity. I think that was probably one of the most important things that I learned as a leader working with cyber folks, is that they definitely want to be heard. They want to have ownership in what they're working on, and you don't have to micromanage them. They can definitely come up with their own ways to get a job done. And as long as you be the wind beneath their wings, they're going to perform. And so that was one thing that I learned.
Oh, right. Yeah, I totally agree. Let's kind of get off subject a little bit. What was the last book you read?
The last book that I read a cybersecurity book. I can tell you about the last television show that I binge watched.
Let's do that one then. What's the last?
That was The Queen's Gambit. And
oh, yeah.
Great show. I just really enjoyed that. And the whole thing about playing chess, what I equated that to, that's how cyber investigators work, is they're always within a chess match with the adversary. But I really, really loved that movie, or that television series. That was great.
All right, great. Well, I know that you are a keynote speaker and executive leadership coach. So can you kind of explain to me about that and what you're doing in that aspect?
Sure. So I'm a keynote speaker. I go out and I talk about a few different things. One of the things is leading and navigating through chaos, crisis, and change. I had a lot of experience reacting to or responding to terrorist attacks and major cyber hacks. And so I talk about knowing that crisis can be managed and chaos can be eliminated, and change is inevitable. So I give tips and techniques for people to be able to manage and lead through those three things. And then I also talk about women, or talk to women about being the only woman in the room. I mean, I was the only woman in the room for the majority of my career, even right before I retired. When I was interacting with police chiefs, there weren't a lot of other women in the room. So I have a podcast called Lead Like a Lady, where I invite remarkable women onto the show, and we talk about how they rose to the top in male-dominated fields. And really, it's an inspiration and it's guidance and advice for all of the women who are coming up behind us.
Yes, I do understand that one. What is your biggest concern in the current state of preventing cyber attacks today, or cyber threats?
I would say we're only as strong as our weakest link. I think that is a major issue. When you look at a lot of these major catastrophic cyber hacks, they could have been prevented because they were the weakest link, the human link.
Right.
And whether it's, clicking on the link or doing something that's, causing the entire cyber infrastructure of a corporation to be weakened, that's all it takes is one person. And so I think that the human element is very, very important. And that's when I go and I speak about that as well, is that you can only be as strong as your weakest link. And if you have people who are not taking cybersecurity seriously, that's going to be, you can spend all the money in the world on all of your controls and all of your hardware and software, but all it takes is one person to click on that link and you've got a problem.
Yes, so true. So what would you say people or employers are not doing enough of to actually take care of these threats?
I think it's a comprehensive approach where it has to be from the top down, where it has to be taken seriously by the executive all the way down to the hourly wage people in the corporation. I think that's very, very important. And I think people need to have ownership in cybersecurity. If you look at it in an ownership way, where everybody in the company has ownership in it because, they want the company to do well, but they can go down as a result of a cybersecurity issue. So being creative and being innovative, really paying attention from onboarding to letting people go and making sure that the cyber things are in place when it comes to all of those things, and making sure that the controls are appropriate, where if people are moving up or changing jobs, they're not going to maintain all of the same access controls as they did. So, I mean, it's really important. It's every aspect of the corporation needs to focus on cybersecurity in some way in order to keep the company safe.
Yes, I totally agree with that. So today and then 10 years ago, so you've been in the field for a long time. What do you see the differences are?
I think it's interesting to see all of the different changes that are happening, but I would say the adversaries are becoming more and more clever, as we're seeing with the business email compromise issues, where they're pretending to be the CEO of the company and they're reaching out to the financial side, telling them to make large draft, financial moves of the money and things like that. So I think really the scams are getting a lot more sophisticated. And so it's all about talking to each other. I think different we created something in Los Angeles called the Cyberhood Watch program, where we took like corporate from the same industry, and we would bring their IT people in to talk to each other, to talk about the different scams that they're seeing, to talk about the different malware that what they're seeing. It's all about belonging to a group bigger than your own corporation to make sure that you're kind of seeing all angles as to what the cyber threat is.
Oh, I like that idea. That's actually a great idea. I like that. So then our last question, where do you see the biggest opportunity to improve cybersecurity?
Like I said, it's got to be the human element and looking at the potential insider threat. I think coming from a law enforcement perspective, those are the things that are very important. Because like I said, you can get all the software and the hardware and everything that you need, the firewalls and all of that, and put those in place. But it's the insiders that we need to be concerned about. And so really making that a priority for corporations is very important.
Okay, and say an insider threat, we got people out there that listen to this, they really don't understand what you're talking about. Can you expound on that a little bit more?
So that could be an insider who wants to do harm to the company, someone who may have gotten fired, who may want to do harm to the company, people who aren't really familiar with, what is sensitive, what are the most important part of what the company is,
Yeah.
trade secret, sharing that information. So really working with your employees for them to understand, what is important, what can be shared, what can't be shared. And also access control, making sure that everybody doesn't have access to everything, because that's where you can harm yourself in a corporation.
Oh, yes, so true. Well, Gina, you know what? I really appreciate you today and coming on and doing this interview with me. You are a strong woman that is a cybersecurity diva, a diva that is driven, inspirational, and visionary that has taken action in security. And I actually applaud you and thank you for your service. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And my podcast is called Lead Like a Lady, and we will have some IT women powerhouse in season 2. So you can find us on your favorite podcast provider.
All right. Well, thank you again, Gina.